Hello all, welcome to this session. In this session, I'm going to answer one of the Java interview questions. That is, explain the difference between static and instance methods in Java. Let me answer. In Java programs, you can create two types of methods. One are static methods and the other one are instance methods. So, static methods belong to the class. Okay, static methods belong to the class, whereas instance methods belong to the object or instance. What that's the reason we call them as instance methods. Okay, while static methods belong to the class and they are common for all the other objects, whereas instance methods belong to the object or instance and they are specific to every object or instance. You can call the object as instance, you can call the instance as object, that's okay. Okay, these are instance methods or object methods. These are static methods or these are called as class methods. Okay, so if you provide static keyword before a method, that becomes a static method. If you don't provide static keyword before a method, that becomes an instance method. If someone asks you the differences between the static and instance methods in Java, you have to explain all these things. Okay, static methods are nothing but class methods. Okay, they belong to the class. Instance methods are nothing but the object methods. Okay, object methods, they belong to the objects or instance, what the same name. Okay, object or instance are nothing but same. Okay, and if you want to call a static method which is there inside a class from outside the class, okay, then you have to use the class name. Okay, in order to access static method of a class from outside the class, you have to use the class name for accessing that. You don't have to create object directly. By using the class name, you can access the static methods of the class from outside. Whereas coming to instance method, in order to access the instance methods of another class, you have to first create an object for the class, and using the object reference, you have to access that instance methods outside the class. Okay. And other thing that is that you have to understand the difference between static methods and instance methods is static methods can only access the static stuff. Okay, that means directly. I mean to say directly. Static methods can only access the static stuff, that is static variables and methods directly. Okay, whereas static methods, in order to access the non-static stuff like instance variables and methods, it has to create the object for the class in which that non-static stuff is available. But coming to the instance methods, they can access directly both static and non-static stuff directly. There is no need of creating an object, or there's no other way. But static methods can only access static stuff directly, whereas to access the non-static stuff, static methods have to, okay, create an object for the class in which that particular variables and methods, non-static variables and methods are available. Using the object reference, you have to access. Okay, so at a high level, theoretically, these are the differences between static methods and instance methods. For making this theoretical stuff clear for you, easy for you, I am going to do some practical demonstration now. So for that, I'll switch to Eclipse IDE. Here, I'm going to create a new class. I'll just right click and create a new class. Okay, I'll just name this class as class A. Okay, I'll just create the name as class A. Click on finish. Inside the class A, I'll create some variables and methods. Inside this particular class A, I'll create some variables and methods. So let's wait for the Eclipse IDE to create this class. Okay, Control plus plus you say. You can increase the font size. Inside this, I'll create a, let's say a variable int a is equal to 5 and another variable static int b is equal to 10. Okay, like this. One instance variable I created, one static variable I created. Similarly, I'll create a method public void sample a. Public void sample a. This is an instance method system.out.println. System.out.println inside sample a. Okay, which is a non-static, that is instance method. Whereas I'll create one more method, that is public void. Public, instead of public void, I'll say public static void. I'm using the keyword static before this method. So this sample B method is not a instance method. Okay, I told you, right? First of all, static methods. Static keyword is provided in the method declaration. Those are static methods. Okay, what are instance methods? The methods, if static keyword is not specified before a method, okay, that kind of methods are called as instance methods. So here, if you see these two methods, guys, to one method, we have not specified any static keyword. To another method, we specified the static keyword. To the method before which have not provided static keyword is called as an instance method. The method before which you have in the method declaration, if you have specified static keyword, that is a static method. System.out.println. Okay, when I call this method, if this particular method is got or not, how to prove that? If this print statement is printed, we can prove that. Okay, inside sample B. Like this, I created one instance variable which doesn't have static keyword provided before that. That is an instance variable. If you have created a variable before which you created the static, you mentioned the static keyword, that is a static variable. And coming to the methods also, if you don't specify the static keyword, that becomes an instance method. If you specify the static keyword before the method, that becomes a static method. This object method or instance method. This is a static method or class method. So all the static stuff like static variables and static methods, they belong to the class. Okay, they're common things, guys. Okay, they are common. Static stuff are common stuff. Okay, you see, for this particular class, you can create any number of objects, but for all the objects, the same value will be there, same method will be there. It's a common variable for all the objects of this class. It's a common method for all the objects of the class. It's not specific to any object. That's why we call them as class variables and class methods. If you put static means the members of the class which are specified with static keyword are related to the class and they're common to all the objects. Whereas the variables and methods, that is members of the class, which are not specified with the static, are specific to every object. Okay, they are not common, guys. They are not common. They are specific to every object. So now you understood what is the difference between the methods which are specified with static keyword. They are belong to the class memory. Here I mentioned clearly. You see, static methods or static variables, whatever it is, guys, that the members of the class which are mentioned with static keyword belongs to the class memory. Okay, or class, you can say. They are common things. Okay, these methods are common for all the objects. Okay, of this class. That's why they belong to the class. Whereas instance method doesn't have the static keyword and they belong to the object or instance means they will change according to that particular object, guys. Okay, they are not common for all the objects of this particular class. Rather, they are specific to every object. That's why the name instance method, object method. Okay, fine. And coming to the other thing, third point, if you have to understand, can call this method directly using the class name. What does it mean? It means that if I create one more class here, I'll just name this class as class B or something. Okay, I'll just give another name like class B. And in this, I'll create a main method. You can create any method, guys. That's okay. I'm creating main method so that I can run the program. Okay, because the execution in the Java programs will start from the main methods. So here, if you observe, okay, if I have to access, okay, this particular static variable. Okay, if I have to access this particular variable or method which is specified with static keyword, you don't have to create an object. You see, I can simply write down system.out.println. What is the name of the class in which the static variable available? Class A. I simply say class A dot. That's it. You can access that static variable. You see, when I say dot here, you see you're only getting B here, not A is not coming. Okay, static variables or static members of the class can be accessed using their class name because they belong to the class. Here, calling the method also same thing, class A dot, which method is coming? Sample B method, which is a static method is coming. Okay, so you don't have to create an object to access the variables and methods of the class which are specified with static keyword because they belong to the class or class memory, and using the class name only we can access. You don't have to create an object. But what is the case of the instance variables or instance methods which are not specified with the static? Okay, so for such kind of instance variables or instance methods, especially in this question, instance methods, we have to create an object. We have to call this method outside the class by creating an object for the class. Okay, if in case I have to access this instance variable or instance method outside the class, first I have to create an object for the class. How to create an object for the class? Class CA is equal to new class A, class A. Okay, like this I'll create. Okay, then CA dot system.out.println, system.out.println. Sorry, I'll just type it properly. System.out.println. I'll simply say Now, using the object reference of this class, I have to create an object for the class. Using the new keyword, I need to create an object for the class and assign that object to the object reference and declare that object reference for of the class. Once you write this object creation statement, using the object reference only you can access. Here, directly using the class, you are able to access the static variables and static methods outside the class. But in order to access the instance variables and instance methods which are not specified with static keyword, you have to create an object for the class in which that instance variables and methods are available. And using that, you have to call that. You see, A is coming here. This is the way. And here similarly, CA dot sample A. Okay. CA dot sample A. Like this, in order to access the non-static, that is instance, that is object related variables and methods, you have to create an object, guys. Okay. That's the way. So that is another point or another difference that you have to explain in the interviews when they ask you the questions. Okay. So again, let me compare static methods. They have the static keyword. Instance or object methods, they don't have the static keyword. Simple. Okay. It can be variables and methods also in sometimes. Okay. The variables which are specified in static are static variables. The variables which are not specified in static are instance variables. Okay. Coming to methods also same thing. The method specified in static keyword. Okay, static methods are the methods which are specified with static keyword. Instance methods are the methods which are not specified with static keyword. And static methods belong to the class. Instance methods belong to the object. And that's the reason when you try to call a static method using the class name, you can access the static methods outside the class. And if you want to access the instance methods or object methods outside the class, you have to first create the object for the class in which this instance method is available. And using the object reference, you have to call this particular instance method. Okay. So which one is easy, guys, to call outside the class? Static methods are easy or instance methods? Definitely static methods, because you don't have to write this line, guys. Extra line you don't have to write. Directly, you see, here I need 3 lines because I need to create an object, and using the object reference of the class, I have to access the instance variables and methods. But static variables and methods, you don't have to create an object directly. Access them using the class name. Which one is easier to access outside the class? Static methods. There may be some situations that will come in real time, like creating some utility methods, okay, where you create the utility methods inside a class and make this utility methods as static, so that you can access these utility methods using the class name itself in which they are created. It will be very easy to access. That's why people go for static methods. That is one of the reason. And the other one is other important difference that you have to understand. The difference between static methods and instance methods is static methods can directly access only the static stuff. For example, here, this is I'll just close this. This task is done. Close this. And here you see, guys, which one is a static method? The sample B is a static method because it is specified with static keyword. And now, if I want to access these variables, let's say, okay, inside this static method, if I want to access these variables, one of them is an instance variable, other one is a static variable. If I want to access the static variable, I can directly access like this. You see, no error, nothing. System.out.print. Inside the static methods, static stuff or static members of this class can be directly accessed within the class. Okay. You see, B directly I can access, it will work fine. What about I want to access the static variable? There's a problem. I cannot write like system.out.println A. It will give me an error because it is not static type. Static methods can access the static stuff directly, but non-static or instance stuff, it cannot be accessed directly. So I'll also call a method, I'll try to call this method, which is a non-static method. That is also not possible. Okay, because I cannot call this method directly from sample B. I cannot call this sample A directly because this is also not static. Okay, non-static stuff cannot be directly accessed. What if I have a method, another method here, public static void sample C. Sample C, if I create a method like sample C, and here I write down system.out.println inside sample C, inside sample C, if I write down, okay. And if I try to call this method, in sample A, I'm not able to call directly because static methods can only access static stuff. Here you see variable B directly you can access because it's static type. Okay. And similarly, sample C, if I call, I can call this method directly. Why? Because sample C is also specified with static keyword. It's a static members, whether it is variables or methods, can be directly accessed by the sample. I mean, that is static methods. But static methods, in order to access the non-static stuff, like, int A is equal to 5 is a non-static variable. Public void sample is a non-static method, which is an instance methods or instance variables. If you have to access inside the sample B, the only way to access is in which class this in which class this instance variables and instance methods are available? Class A. For that class A, I have to create the object case. Okay, without creating the object, you cannot directly access them. Okay, to directly access them, they should be of static type. You see, within the class also, I have to create an object for them. Okay, within the class also, I have to create an object for the class in which this instance, that is object methods and object variables are available. Now using the object reference, you can access system.out.println. Now you can access. Okay, directly you cannot access, but by creating an object for the class in which this instance variables and methods are there, you see CA dot, I can access A. Now you see, I'm able to access directly A. It's not accessible. Similarly, CA dot sample A, I can access, no problem. Using the object reference, I can access, but directly I cannot access. But what about this point is clear, right? Static methods can access static variables and methods directly, but in order to access the non-static stuff like instance variables, or that is object variables and object methods, you have to create an object for the class inside which this particular variables, instance variables and methods are available, and you have to use the object reference to indirectly access them. Directly you cannot access the non-static stuff. Directly you can access only static stuff. Indirectly you have to access the non-static stuff or object stuff by creating an object for that particular class and using the object reference, you have to access them. But coming to instance methods, there is no such kind of feeling, guys. You can directly access both the static and non-static stuff. For example, this is the instance method. Here, if I have to access this A and B, I can directly access, guys. There's no restriction here. Okay, whether that is a static variable or instance variable or object variable or whatever it is, you can directly access. There is no restriction here, you see. So, okay, this is a static method, right? So I'm just working in a wrong method. I have to go to the non-static method. Non-static methods can access both the static and non-static stuff directly. System.out.println, I can access A, no problem. Static stuff also I can access directly in non-static methods. You see B, no problem. Okay, you can call the sample B method. No problem. Sample C method, even though they are static, also you can access them directly. They don't have any such rules like static methods can only access directly static stuff, or non-static stuff to be, that is object stuff, you have to create an object. But coming to the non-static methods, you can call both the static stuff and non-static stuff directly, guys. Okay. So here I'll create one more method, that is the object method, public void sample D, I'll say. Okay. Whether it is a static method or non-static method doesn't matter for this non-static methods, object methods, they can call them. Okay, they can call them inside sample D, inside sample D like this. And if I call this, you see, I can call this. Whether it is a static method or non-static method doesn't matter. You can access them directly. A, B, you see, B, C, D, everything. Okay. But coming to the static methods, there are restrictions like directly you can access only the static stuff. Indirectly, by creating an object for the class in which that object methods and variables are there, I have to use object reference to access them. But coming to the non-static methods, you can directly access them, both static and non-static stuff. Directly you can access without the need of anything else. Okay. So that's what is the difference, guys. That's sort of these are very important, guys. Static plays a very key role in Java programming. A lot of people are not aware of the static keyword. So that's the reason interviewers will frequently ask this kind of question, like what is the difference between static methods and instance methods. So if you have the proper knowledge, you will be able to understand this. Okay. Can call both static and non-static stuff directly. Okay. So guys, if you're able to explain so far, that is more than enough. Okay. These points, if you're able to explain, static methods have the static keyword before them. They belong to the common memory, that is a class memory. They belong to the class and they belong to the common, and they're not specific to any particular object. They're common to all the objects. That's why they belong to the class. And if you want to access the static methods of a class outside the class, by directly using the class name, you can access. And this is the easiest way to access the methods from another class outside the class. Okay. So people, when creating some utility methods inside a class, right, they'll make them static because that utility methods can directly access with the help of class name. So you don't have to create the objects for the classes in order to access that methods when they are made static. Okay. So easy access will be there. And at the same time, static methods can only access static stuff directly. But in order to access the non-static stuff, we have to create object for the class in which the non-static stuff is available. And using the object reference of that class, you have to access the non-static stuff inside the static methods. And coming to the instance methods, no static keyword will be there. They belong to the object memory, or they belong to the object or instance. That's why they are called as instance methods. Okay. Can call this method by creating an object for the class. Okay. You cannot directly access using the class name because they belong to the object memory. So by creating an object for the class using the object reference, you have to call this instance methods or object methods. And the other thing is that instance or object methods can call can access both the static and non-static stuff directly. You don't have to do anything else. Okay. So with practical demonstration, I've answered this question for you. And also, guys, you can take a screenshot of this if you want. If you want to take the screenshot of all this code, you can take the screenshot. Okay, so let me go here to the class B also. I'll open. What's the problem? Okay. Save this and just drag it here. There's no problem there. Just see here, guys, you can take a screenshot of this. First of all, you can take the screenshot of this external class from where you are able to access the static and non-static members of this class. For accessing the static members of this class, you have to use a class name. Okay, class name dot variable, class name dot method you can call. But to access the non-static stuff of this particular class, you have to create an object, and using the object reference, you have to access outside the class. First, you can take the screenshot of this entire thing. And now I'll scroll down. Hope you have taken the screenshot. I'll scroll down where I created some static methods and instance methods. Okay. So you can take the screenshot of this, guys, or I'll just try to reduce the font so that you can take the screenshot at a go. Yeah, now you can take the screenshot, guys. You can zoom in your machine. Okay. Entire code, whatever I covered in this session. Now you can take the screenshot because I have I just reduce the font so that you can take the screenshot. Hope, guys, you have taken the screenshot of this entire code, class A, class B, and all these points referring to this. Okay, I covered that. So that's all for this session. Thank you. Bye-bye.